Hi, everyone. Welcome. Let everyone join us and we'll get started. You're here for decluttering strategies around the holidays. Welcome to the Department of Sustainability's Lunch and Learn. My name is Catherine Sturinsky. Today's topic is decluttering strategies around the holidays. But first, a few housekeeping tips. First, if you have a question or comment to share, please do so in the Q&A. Questions will be answered after the presentation. And of course, the presentation is being recorded, so the link will be sent to you directly after, usually in a couple of days. And so you can review it again, share it with friends, families, colleagues. And of course, past webinars are also available on our Green Team's intranet page. So do check those out. And I will be sending out a reminder of some of our past holiday sessions because this is our third. We've been at these lunch and learns for quite a while now, which is exciting. So also, please do stick around until the end so you can get your code for the wellness points if you're participating in that program. All right, let's introduce our speaker. Today we have Devon Fegen-Herdman. She is a trained social worker, and so helping others has been a through line throughout her career. She's a graduate of Case Western Reserve University with a master's degree in social work, and she has extensive training and experience in home visits, working with clients and helping people make changes in their lives. Devon also has specific skills in working with senior citizens, having worked at Hospice of the Western Reserve for many years as an advanced certified hospice and palliative care social worker from 2010 to 2016. She also co-founded a thrift store for art supplies, Upcycle Part Shop. And if you remember to last year in December, we did a holiday edition with Upcycle Part Shop and how you can do some creative gifting in a low waste strategy. So that recording will be sent in the email as well. And so at Upcycle, Devon developed systems to receive and sort material donations and visited area businesses to view their storage and disposal practices to identify usable items that could be pulled out of their waste streams and reused creatively. This was the ultimate crash course in how to manage many different items in a neat and organized way so that they could be properly merchandised as materials for sale. In 2022, Devon pivoted her career to start cluttering with Devon Professional Organizing. Today, almost exactly 3 years since her first business Instagram post on December 15th, yes, I looked, Devon is here to share some decluttering tips with us, wrapped up in a holiday theme. So with that, Devon, the floor is yours and you can share your screen.
Thank you. All right. Can you see it?
Yes, looks
Okay,
great.
great. Thank you for that introduction. That was funny because I did not actually know when my first Instagram post was, but I knew it was holiday season 2022. So today we're going to talk about decluttering strategies around the holidays. Um, a quick agenda, talking about sort of why do it, why bother, the nuts and bolts of decluttering and organizing, and then kind of finding the mindset for success. A little bit about me. Catherine provided that great introduction. I was a social worker. She kind of covered a really nice background. I'm local, born and raised in Cleveland, suburbs. I should be fair. I have lived in Cleveland, the city proper. We live in Avon with my husband, dog. You can see the dog in the background. She's a really good coworker. Cat, 12-year-old son, and 9-year-old daughter. So busy, probably like many of you. So why bother, right? So I wanted, because this is a talk about sustainability, I wanted to lead with the sustainability reasons for why bothering, and then we'll get into some of the others. When things are cluttered and messy, you don't know what you have, and people tend to re-buy items. I see this all the time. We have a crock pot, but I couldn't find the crock pot, so I had to buy a new crock pot, right? Or people save items that they don't need because they're like not sure if they're going to have it. There's this like mindset that people get locked into where they're afraid they won't have something. And then also, I think a lot of people think I don't have enough space, right? So storage is a huge industry. People pay monthly lots of money for storage, or you move, right? You're like, this two-bedroom apartment is too small for me, and I'm going to go to a bigger place. You probably have plenty of storage. I meet with lots of people all the time who think they don't have enough storage, but really, once you start getting rid of the things you don't need, you have plenty of storage. Sometimes I think about like my parents' generation. I grew up in Lakewood, Ohio. If you're familiar with Lakewood, it's full of duplexes. People would raise a family with 6 kids in half a house. Now we say, oh, this house is too small. It's like it wasn't. We just have a lot more stuff. So thinking about giving items a second life, that's the other thing. I see a lot of items that get damaged in storage, and so then they're not useful anymore, or they end up in a dumpster because someone who's not as sustainably minded as you is the person who does the clean out later. Or you're in a hurry because you're moving, something like that. And so things end up in the landfill that don't really need to go there, but people are just in a rush. Clutter affects us. There's research, showing that it affects our mental health, our stress. Women in particular show rising stress levels in environments with more things, and that's different from men. So that's sort of an interesting find. I think that in most traditional families, and of course, there's not sufficient research, probably at all, but like especially on non-traditional families or homosexual couples and other family systems. But a lot of times the mom is sort of in charge of everyone's things, right? So suddenly the mom is in charge of 4-person socks or 5-person socks, that kind of thing. There's another study that found that people with messy counters ate more unhealthy snacks. And if you don't really have room to cook, you can't really see what you have, you're reaching for the quickest and easiest thing. Also, if we're stressed, I mean, they do these studies where people have to do math problems and then like see if they eat brownies. The harder the problems are, the more they eat. If we're stressed, people go for the, less healthy snacks. So it really does affect us. The reason, this is not my idea, it's kind of in the industry, but I think that the reason that people are stressed is everything that's out is kind of talking to you, right? So it's like the laundry pile, wherever it might be. Some of you might have that at home right now. It's calling out like, wash me, fold me. Why didn't you put me away? Why didn't you handle me? Right now this season, why didn't you wrap me? Why aren't you returning me to the store? Why didn't you call about this thing? So there's all these, maybe it's a project that's halfway done. So you have these good intentions and goals. You have the thing out like, I started this, but I ran out of time. I got interrupted. And you want to finish the project. You want to put the new light switch cover plate on, but you didn't get around to it. Those things I think are all calling to you. And so as you look around, it's not conscious. It's almost like the unconscious of like, and I think a lot of times it's so happening so much all the time that we don't even realize that level of noise. So it's important to think about, what does your home look like at rest? This was a mantra that I used when I was decluttering my home, and I think it can be helpful. What do you want your home to look like at rest? And I think the at rest is important because it's the day-to-day, if you live with other people and they're getting things out, where are items piling up? And what do you want it to look like? I have a cat, I used to have the cat food dishes like kind of on the counter because I use them every day. But then I was like, I don't want to look at this. I only use it for 5 minutes. And so I cleared a drawer and moved it into the drawer, right? So kind of making those changes to get your home how you want it to look so that you can feel at peace. Just checking in, I kind of covered this, but how do you feel when you walk in the door? Are you happy? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel calm? Or are you like immediately having higher stress? And this could happen at work, people's desks. I sort of cleared my desk right now to have a clear desk to talk to you, but this happens all the areas that we frequent, right? Okay, so the nuts and bolts of how to get organized. First, I want to talk about motivation versus task initiation. A lot of times people will say, I'm not motivated. That's probably false. You all are here. You have a level of interest. Motivation is the desire for change. So if you want things to be different, you're motivated. People get really stuck with task initiation. It's, like a higher order um, brain skill. These are not the best words, but you know what I mean. And these ideas are from an excellent book. It's also available on audiobook, How to Keep House While Drowning. You can see the cover there by Casey Davis. She's excellent. So these are like strategies to to begin the task, which it might be what you need. Use a visual timer. We all have them on our phone now, and do something really small, 5, 10, 15 minutes. You might have to work up to 15 minutes. Um, st and just do that. And then you'll come back tomorrow and do another amount of, another 10 minutes or another 5 minutes. Even that small amount is going to build up over time. Sometimes it's like getting into it, and once you start going at 5 minutes, the timer might go off and you might be like, well, I'll just do a little bit more. And if you feel good about it, you can. Also considering a small space, right? So instead of like, I'm going to overhaul my entire wardrobe, that's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for me. When I go to people's homes, we spend a minimum of 3 hours. I don't always have 3 hours to start overhauling my wardrobe, right? I'm gonna get interrupted. Um, so just do one drawer. Like, hey, I mentioned before, there's socks everywhere. Like, spend 5 minutes when you notice, hey, I'm gonna pair up these socks. I'm gonna get rid of anything that's not paired. I'm gonna get rid of those socks that I don't like. And then one drawer is done, 5 minutes. Schedule the time on your calendar, make it like an appointment. Don't cancel it. Stick to what's on your calendar. I love phoning a friend, right? Get your friend to come over, or just the accountability partner of like, hey, we're both going to work on our homes. Let's talk in an hour and see how we did. Body doubling it's like having the friend over. If you can get a second body in the room doing the same thing that you want to be doing, it helps people get started. That's why, maybe you don't feel like working, but you kind of look over at your neighbor and you see them working away at their computer and you're like, oh, okay, I'll just kind of get started. People do it also with YouTube videos. So there are tons of Clean With Me videos out there, and you can put them on and just watch it for a couple minutes, and then you'll probably start naturally begin to tidy up or pick up around where you are. Bundling is adding something that you like to do with something you don't like to do. Despite doing this or doing this as my day job, I do not like doing dishes. I don't like doing laundry. Um, and so I'm almost always listening to a podcast or, have a little TV show on my phone. I've got my earbuds in while I'm doing those things. That's bundling, right? So I'm looking forward to my next episode of the podcast. So it increases, the positivity of the experience, even though you're like doing something you don't really want to do. Where are those natural wait times? Um, some of it for me isn't, you have those games on your phone and then they make you wait. Where is that natural wait time? It adds maybe if you have the Hulu I have, where you can like say, okay, when the ad comes, I'm going to run and do this thing. Kind of building in, getting started where you're not thinking about it so much. Putting on music can help because then you're naturally moving your body. So just like it just creates that desire to move. And then moving towards our proximity. So for example, a lot of people have a doom room, didn't organize, only moved, right? Doom, it's an acronym, but also that's the feeling we get, right? We're all walking on by the guest room. No, like, don't look in there. It's a collection of Amazon boxes and who knows what else. Stepping in there, going to that room. Maybe you're scrolling on your phone. Can you scroll on your phone in that room? Maybe you'll start to pick up a couple things after a few minutes. So just going closer instead of avoiding those areas. This is the considered the 3-box method, and that's what I recommend. So you literally have 3 receptacles that you want to gather, and that's how you make your piles, right? So you're like ready to get started. If things are really out of hand, sometimes people just grab a trash bag and go through and try to collect trash first as like a first go through. But this is sort of the way to declutter. So I like a box. Most of us have boxes at our homes these days for donations, a trash bag for trash, and then I like a laundry basket for keep, just because it kind of communicates to your brain it's not leaving the house. Sometimes people do if you have heard of the children's book, if you give a mouse a cookie, it's like, oh, I'm keeping this. And then they go to return it and they're like, oh, this thing I wanted to do. And then they go there and then they're like, oh, this thing I wanted to. And then, so it's like you're going around and around and you didn't really make any progress. You want to stay in one area until it's complete. Like if you want to do the guest room, I'm going to put away everything on the bed. Like stay in that area until it's done. Make your piles, sort your things. Sometimes people need a time will tell box, like a maybe box, and you want to date it, and then you want to close it up. And ideally, if you haven't needed anything from the box, you want to just get rid of the box without opening it. Because sometimes if people open it, they're like, oh, yeah, I did want that thing. You didn't need it. Wait a certain amount of time and then let it go. If you're doing this at work, it's, same idea. Sometimes you can donate if they're, common areas like, does anyone else want these office supplies? What you're getting rid of, and then filing things. I've helped people at work and, they have a giant pile on their desk and then we open their file drawer and it's empty, right? So it's like, how can you get the pile into the file drawer? Um, if you do this at work, you want to kind of go through your files and label as you go because later it's going to be overwhelming and you're going to have a big stack of files that look like that picture without any labels and you're like, ugh, I don't know what any of this is. So try to be specific and label as you go. You can always kind of circle back and get even more specific, right? Like maybe as you that's like another day or another session. You're like, okay, now I want to make all the client files blue and I want to make all my project files that are archived green and I want to make all the project files I'm working on right now red. You can kind of do that stuff to have it make more sense, but I would wait till later for that. Sometimes people can get so detailed. It's like you want to make the big progress of getting it into keep, get rid of, keep, trash, donate, that kind of thing. Okay, where to start? So now it's like, hopefully we understand how to start. Now, where physically to start? Um, a lot of times we say car, but I got rid of that because this is not the right season to start in your car. So sometimes we say, what area bothers you the most? A little rage cleaning can be a great energy, a great motivator. I like donations. That comes from a lady, A Slab Comes Clean, I think is the name of her like brand. But she says, what's easy? What's easy to get rid of? Sometimes we go in people's homes and they say, oh, I could get rid of a lot of this. Like, oh, okay, great. Let's pull all that out and put it in the box like right away. That's very easy. So just go for that. Low-hanging fruit, the stuff that is very easy to do. Easy, non-emotional areas. Bathrooms, I think, are great because there's usually a smaller room and they're kind of contained. There's usually not that much emotional stuff in there. And we love trying new products. Like, get rid of all those little samples. What do you use every day? What do you use every day? The same with linens. Linens are one that I've seen really build up. Like, how many towels do you and your family need? So just sort of evaluate. If you have 10 people, maybe you do need 20 towels. If you have 3 people, you probably don't need 20 towels. Even if you have guests, unless you have a pool in the backyard, maybe. So, just evaluating those things that are easily replaceable if you kind of mess up, right? If I get rid of a shampoo and later I'm like, you know what? I think I wanted that again. Very easy to replace. So those are those safe places to start. This is just talking a little bit more about how to make things look pretty. And I kind of mentioned it before. A lot of times when I see folks having stuff out, it's because the storage area nearby is either not well utilized or there isn't enough of it, right? Like maybe there isn't sufficient storage for your things, or it's just not being utilized properly. So once you see an area where clutter is building up, the first thing I'm doing, those things are probably things that you need and use all the time. So it's not, if I picked up a lot of the stuff on that counter, you're not going to want to get rid of it. The question is really what's in the cupboards and the storage areas nearby that you could get rid of. Because there's probably stuff that's sort of languishing away in there that you don't need. This is a 2020 rule. This is from the minimalists, which is two guys who call themselves the minimalists. But basically, they sort of anecdotally found that we're keeping items just in case, right? Oh, I'm going to keep this just in case. I might need it someday. I've never used it, but I might need it. Almost all the time, those items can be gotten within 20 minutes of our house for $20 or less. And so, kind of keeping that in mind, I always think of the first aid. I think, you have a bad cut or something, you get like the giant band-aids. But over time and years, especially if it's kind of messy, you're building up a giant stockpile of these, we have 5 wraps and, medical supplies. And it's like, why are we storing this? We can move it along. If I sprain my wrist, I'm going to go out and buy a new one anyway. And it's highly available. We live in an urban area. So just something to keep in mind to feel more confident getting rid of some of those smaller items that you don't really use. Okay, sentimental items. This is where people get really stuck, right? People are like, I have so many sentimental items. Very common. It's also very common that like someone maybe has passed in your family and you or someone else has brought those items to your home, and it makes sense. In the middle of grief is not the right time to make those hard decisions. It's really not recommended actually for like 6 months after someone's passed. So, I mean, of course, we all have to do what we have to do to, life keeps moving forward. But as much as you can, you're really not in a state to make those really important decisions. So what happens is people end up with a lot of sentimental items and it really bothers them. It's like weighing on them. So here are some of the questions that we ask when people are struggling with sentimental items. How do I feel when I look at it? The reason I like this one is sometimes people are holding on to things that they are keeping out of like guilt or shame, which you can see on the next bullet point, guilt, or obligation. It's like, I don't want this, but I feel I have to keep it. I told them I would keep it. They made it for me. I have to keep it. So I think we should only be keeping items that give us positive feelings. So just really evaluating that. If you think about it, if it gives you, an uncomfortable feeling, not supposed to say negative feelings, but uncomfortable, sort of a feeling that we don't like. Every time your eye lands on that, every time you see it or think of it, you're hitting that feeling. So why are we keeping those things? It's a thought-provoking question, I think. Very similar. Did someone give this to me? Depending on the relationship, sometimes you can offer to return it to the person, right? If it's a close relationship, hey, I know you made this for me. I've loved it. But I'm really trying to downsize my things. I'm kind of on this journey. I wondered if you wanted it back, before I passed it on. I love the reality shows where they're cleaning out houses. People are like, I can't get rid of that. My mom gave it to me. And then they're like, well, what if we ask your mom? They ask the mom. The mom's like, sure. They don't care. A lot of times the person gave it as a gift. They wanted you to be happy. They don't want it to be a burden for you. And so if you tried it and it doesn't work, it doesn't fit with your life, it doesn't bring joy, I think it's okay to let it go. There's something called fantasy self, right? We have a family friend and their dad had a boat, right? I'm going to buy this boat. We're all going to go fishing. It's going to be great. The boat was in the garage for 10 years. How many times do you think they used the boat? No times, right? So that's that fantasy self, and we all have it. I say it's picnic baskets. I love a good picnic basket. If I see it in the store, I'm like, we're gonna have picnics. It's gonna be great. We never go on picnics. And if we did, we have coolers. Like we already own lunch boxes and coolers that we would put our food in if we really wanted to go on a picnic. So just kind of being realistic with yourself, like, is that a fantasy self? And we all do it. And then just some other thoughts, sentimental items you don't really want. Can you take a picture? Is that sufficient? Even writing down the story if it's an important heirloom item, and thinking about letting it have a second life, letting someone else love it the way the person who gave it to you wants it to be loved, or the intention for it to be loved. Sometimes people get really bogged down in paper management, so I was just going to quickly go through the paper management plan. This idea is to kind of handle papers going forward. If you have a giant backlog, that's something you'll have to kind of work through with papers. Although, depending how old they are, they're probably not that important, right? If you have a bill from 3 years ago and I mean, by now it's either like you paid, it got disconnected, like it's probably not important anymore. But for active papers coming in, you want to have 3 locations. So you need a place where papers are coming into, um, ongoing sort of storage. Sometimes people call this Sunday basket, but like where are the papers living? If it's on your counter and you don't want it to be on your counter, you have to create the home. Where are they going to live? And then long-term files, right? So that's the stuff you need to save. It's usually like medical, paperwork, home, your lease, your homeowner's insurance and other information, tax papers. Like, where are those? And you don't need a ton of them. And the idea is as papers come in minutes, every day, minutes, and it might even be under a minute, you're like, put the stuff directly into the recycle. I like in my house, the mailbox is at the street and then the recycle bin is by the garage. And so I'm literally putting the recycle into the bin by the garage before I even enter the house. 30 seconds. I mean, and I'm not taking any longer than my walk up the driveway. Then with your active papers, you want to schedule a time weekly, 1 hour. So you can, if you're good at this, after you do your hour every week for a while, you can see maybe I don't need an hour, maybe I can do it in 30 minutes, or maybe I can do an hour every other week. But initially, an hour every week. And what you're doing is flipping through those papers and like adding them to the calendar, RSVPing, paying them if they're bills. I wrote address like, I mean, like handle it, not write your address on it, but handle whatever you need to handle. And then from there, you're keep shredding it or filing it, right? So if it's like a paper for a school picnic and the school picnic is in 3 weeks, I might put it on my calendar, but the paper might have important details. I might just leave it with my active papers until the event has passed in case I need to refer to it again. So just keep it there, shred them or file them. So if you do that, you should be on top of your papers. And people do call it Sunday basket. That's like a strategy because they're doing that hour on Sunday. Okay, so now let's talk about where do the things go that you are not keeping. So this is a little bit of a financial perspective and also a sustainability perspective. Sometimes people get really caught up on like, I can't get rid of it because like it's, not great for the earth kind of thing. Here's the thing. The item is already made. It's not like if you get rid of it, you're unmaking it. It's already made. You've already spent the money to purchase it, right? It's a sunk cost. You can't get your money back. Maybe you can sell it probably for less than you purchased it and that less than you think it's worth. But so don't let that feeling of like, ooh, where's it going to go cause you to keep items that you don't actually want. I love thinking about items having a second life. I think of Toy Story. I think those toys, like they want to go to a good home. And if it's not my home, that's okay. Let me release it and let it get someplace where it's going to be loved. This is this is like the a little bit sad side of what we do. What's the alternative, right? So people keep things sometimes long past maybe they actually need them. And I think sometimes it's like a decision for another day. Here are the things that I've seen a lot of. There's a picture of water damage. If items go into storage, there is a strong risk of sort of, you can see mold, mice, water damage. What happens is sometimes people go back 10 years later and the items have been damaged in such a way that they're no longer useful. I put this little dress, which is cute, but there is also like the things that you have in your home right now are probably in style and like relevant. And if you wait 10 years, there's so many things that, they're not, it might be a fine shirt, but no one wants to wear it because it's not cool anymore. Or I see a lot with the tech, the cable wires. It's like no one's even using those wires anymore, right? So if we release it as close, not in a rush, but as close as possible to when it's been actively used, I think that's the best choice from a sustainability perspective. And the other thing I mentioned before is items, when people are in a hurry, they're moving, maybe there's a death in the family, people just put stuff in a dumpster because it is easier and faster than making all these trips, figuring out where should this item go. And so if you care, it's worth it to address where the items are going. So we all know let it go. So these are kind of the main ways things exit our house now. Selling, most of the selling I see kind of happens on Facebook Marketplace, or there's similar like groups on there, garage sale, Avon kind of stuff. There's consignment shop. There's a large one in Westlake here on the west side. I don't know about east side, south side. But consignment shop could be good. Giveaway, buy nothing groups. Those are on Facebook, free cycle, and then donate. I recommend, there are so many charities that accept donations of secondhand goods. I like to just pick a place that is probably close by to you, that feels easy, and will take most household goods and clothing. Sometimes people get very stuck trying to find the perfect home, and that can be a giant barrier, right? So suddenly the items we've decluttered, we've decided we don't want them, and now it's a big pile in the foyer. It's a big pile in my trunk. It's a big pile in the garage. So that can really become a barrier. So you just want to sort of, especially if you have a lot of volume. If you only have a few things to clear out, you can take your time finding, oh, the perfect person who is looking for this. You can spend more time doing that. If you have a lot, if you're trying to kind of really make a dent in your home, you probably need a place that can handle that kind of volume. Specialty items, there are some specialty items that we do recommend, getting those items where they belong. And Catherine was just sharing with me before we joined the call that empty pill bottles are now being accepted at the solid waste district. So that's exciting news. Electronics, I'm in Avon, as I mentioned. We have a Best Buy out here still, and they will recycle small electronics at their they take them at their customer service desk. Ret3 is in Cleveland. Medications, most police departments seem to have these lock boxes, and they're right in the lobby. Like you don't have to go inside or talk to anyone. I just dropped stuff off at like 9 p.m. in Rocky River the other day. I just like open one door. It's almost like a post office box to collect medications in, and you can just put old expired medications in there, and they'll dispose of them properly. If you have they have some rules. That's mostly for pills. If you have liquids, needles, you kind of have to look online for a specialty pharmacy that does accept those. Paper shredding, check with your city. They usually have recycling days for free. A lot of times they're in spring after tax season. The UPS store and FedEx also offer it for about $1 a pound, so it's really quite reasonable. Ripped and torn clothing, there's metal recycling bins. Also, like the Volunteers of America recycles all the fabrics. You can also ask at the place that you're using, like, hey, what do you do if you get a torn clothing? How do you handle that? Blankets and towels, animal shelters will usually take those and use them for bedding. And then hazardous chemicals, you can contact the solid waste district. And of course, your own department, Catherine, is an amazing wealth of knowledge on that stuff. So a lot of times after the holidays, people are feeling really swamped. And so you just want to think about how to get a reset after the holidays, right? If there's a large influx of items, that can be really overwhelming. And everybody's home gets messy, even mine. Usually to me, it's just a sign that I'm too busy, right? Because I could clean up, but I don't have enough time to do it. I like this five things method, and this is again from that book I mentioned before, How to Keep House While Drowning. She says there's only five things in every room, and I think the number five is because you can count them on your fingers. So she says go through, gather all the trash. She recommends this order, and it's also nice because if you get interrupted or if you have to come back tomorrow, you can kind of continue on wherever you were. So trash, laundry. She says don't do the laundry, just gather it. Dishes, don't do the dishes, just gather them. Things with homes, you're going to put those away. And then you're left with things without homes, right? So those might be the new influx of things. Those are sort of the clutter, right? They're moving around because they don't have a home. So the idea now is to create a home. Where should it live, right? So, one question you can ask yourself, there's no straight answer for everyone because every person is different. So, where is the first place you will look for this item? Put it there. So, if you've lost something and you are searching frantically around your house and you eventually find it, the first place you looked, that's where it should live, right? Try to move it there because that's where your brain, for whatever reason, you're like, this is the first place I'm looking. That's where it should go. Other ideas that, because sometimes people are like, I don't know how, like, where to create the home. There's a great lady on Instagram. She says, with its cousins, with its coworkers, with its family. So cousins would be like other things that have the same purpose. Like I wrote all types of glue, but you could have glue and tape and stapler, kind of all together. They're all sticky things. With its coworkers, other things you would use at the same time or for the same project. So like needle and thread, scissors, extra buttons, like those are all used at the same time, even though they're different objects. Another example would be like picture hanging kit, right? My hammer, my nails, my picture hanging wire. Keep that all together because it's with its coworkers. Or with its family, right? So other items that are similar but might be different sizes, different styles. I think that one's self-explanatory. When you're creating homes, you want to put the more frequently used items up front and easily accessible, and least used items into storage. The three categories of things that I believe should go into storage are like seasonal decor, travel, like suitcases, things like that, and then sentimental items. I have never been to a home that doesn't have any sentimental items. Everybody has a little bit. Sometimes you want to establish how much sentimental items do I want to keep, which goes into the next bullet point. You might say, we have room for 2 bins per person of sentimental items. So then that's how much you're going to keep. Letting your space tell you how many, I just think it's important. It's, a conversation with your space. Sometimes you might be like, I love dresses. I love dresses. Well, if you live in a smaller home with small closets, your house might be telling you you only have room for 20 dresses, right? If you live in double the size house and lots of giant closets, you might have room for 40 dresses. So at that point, you choose, but it's like a thoughtful, purposeful decision. I just love dresses. I'm going to get a hanging rack and I'm going to delete this bookshelf and I'm going to have room for 40 dresses because that's how many I want. So it's kind of thinking about letting your space tell you how many to keep. Getting rid of least favorites. I like this. That's again from the A Slob Comes Clean. The idea of these are all my favorite mugs. Well, I only want to have one shelf of mugs. Okay, let me pick my favorite favorites and get rid of the least favorites until it fits, right? They're all favorites. We understand. And that's the moment. I have this picture of the bins. Now is the moment when you would get those matchy bins if you want them. And you want to label them so that everyone knows the system. Living with others. Some of you might be here not for yourself at all, but for other people, right? So the advice is start with your own things, right? So just start with your own things. Even if you think it's everyone else, like hit your own bathroom, hit your own underwear drawer, hit your own clothing. We all have too much. I have too much. I've decluttered. I'm sure I could find 20 things to declutter right now if I put some effort into it. And then delineating the space. I like this shoe shelf with the 4 different levels. What you want to do is be like mom's shoe shelf, second mom's shoe shelf, son's shoe shelf, daughter's shoe shelf. Having separate space is helps because if one person has like 5 pairs of shoes and wants to jam them all in, that's their choice. And if the other person wants to have 2 pairs of shoes and lots of white space, that's their choice. But if you don't delineate the space, the person with 8 pairs of shoes is just putting their stuff all over the other people's, and it's very annoying. So, as much as you can delineate that space, that will get rid of a lot of the difficulty, and you're kindly returning people's items to their space if they're leaving them everywhere. If people are leaving stuff everywhere, they may not realize how much stuff they have. Let's see. So this is just a little bit more advice on how to make things look nice. Having some white space between is what makes it feel open, making sure things don't overhang the shelves. Sorting things by color, rainbow organizing is very popular, and you just literally like put all the reds together, put all the yellows together. Lining things up by size or by, um, and then by color is really helpful. Oops, sorry. Okay, mindset for success. Success. We're going to cover this in just a couple minutes because we're almost at the end. So hopefully things are in good shape. Thinking about prevention and the holiday season, what are you gifting and asking for this holiday season? And I put that little recycle, we think of it as the recycle symbol, but what's the first word, right? It's like reduce, really avoid, right? So that's the first step in sustainability. How can we avoid or reduce what we're doing, right? Recycle is like way down the line. Letting your family and friends know. So my family and friends know I don't want a lot of stuff. I don't want a lot of stuff. And how can we focus on experiences and consumables, right? I would rather have a gift of a food treat or going out to the movies together. So just a thought. If you're in maintenance mode, sometimes people come through, right? I've decluttered and it's like, I'm not feeling that great. Here are the questions. Did you declutter enough? Are you or is someone else filling the house back up? And then just thinking about, do you have an equal and opposite system for exiting, for items exiting compared to what comes in? We're really good at shopping. Our society encourages us to shop. But do you have things moving out at the same rate as to what's coming in? If you do these things, hopefully you can get to that point where you feel like you're in maintenance mode. When you're in maintenance mode, it's nice to have a donation box. We actually collect things in our guest room all the time. So my kids know, oh, that shirt doesn't fit, put it in the guest room. Mom will get rid of it. That's where you can kind of really enjoy the buy nothing or free cycle and find those very specific people who might want that one item because you don't have as much volume. People who are in maintenance mode are decluttering and cleaning out little and often. So just taking a few minutes to address it right then and there. I put kids' art area. That is an area like every 6 months I have to do a pretty significant overhaul just because the kids collect so much stuff and we shove a lot of things there every time we're cleaning off the dinner table. So there are going to be certain areas of your home that collect more than others, and you might just have to get into that routine of cleaning it out. We all know the Ohio, right? Ohio. Only handle it once, right? Don't put it down, put it away. If it'll take less than 2 minutes, just do it right now. So some of these habits, it's like, can I unpack the bag before I sit in my chair, right? Instead of putting it on the counter, can I put it right into the cabinet instead of having to do it later? So just getting into these habits, it feels like a lot at first, but the more you do, the more natural it will feel. People who have tidy homes spend time regularly tidying up. Even if it's 5 minutes, or maybe you like to do it, all together, 45 minutes on Saturday, and you kind of go through the house listening to your favorite podcast or, with your favorite movie on the background. Also, sometimes people are motivated by thinking of their future self, thanking them, right? Your morning self will thank you if your kitchen is cleaned up before you go to bed. So a little bit more on prevention. Stores are really good at getting us to buy more. I love pickup services, right? That will reduce your impulse buying. Waiting to replace consumables until it's 75% gone. We don't need 10 years of toothpaste. It's very available, very available. I love shopping and then sticking it on my wish list and then waiting to see if that impulse passes. Do I really need it, or is it just a thought in my head? And it's so easy to buy things right now. I love to shop at the library. You can get that hit of feeling like you're shopping, and then you return it all in a few weeks. And then I think we should switch from asking ourselves, can I afford this, to where will this item live in my home? The Twitch is by Anthony Angaro, and he just basically says our impulse when we want to try something new is to shop first. Can you try the new thing without shopping first? Can you borrow? Can you do the thing, without the best gear, and kind of see if you actually like it and wait to shop? And thank you. We're at the end. And in case it wasn't clear, we do provide in-home hands-on assistance. We especially help busy professionals and seniors. And I've created some 15-minute appointments if anyone would like to chat with me in the next few days. And we do free consults as well. And I would also encourage you to sign up for my newsletter if you're interested in some tips, and you can see how to reach me. We're at the end.
Okay, thank you, Devon. That was amazing.
Thank
So
you.
many incredible tips, and I love the reference to Toy Story because I regularly say my most favorite thing is seeing other kids wearing my kids' clothes or playing with their toys. So love that.
Mhm.
All right, we do have a bunch of questions, which I am thrilled
Okay.
about. So let's just plow through these. Okay,
Should
so
I
first, oh, go ahead.
should I stop sharing, or do you leave that? I don't know.
You can leave it up for a couple minutes and then stop sharing. I'll have some slides later to share too, but that way people can get your contact information. All right, so first question. I've been a part of 2 home apartment downsizing or cleanouts, along with partial help getting rid of things in family members' homes who were sick and eventually passed away. It is only me, and I have a couple of family members that would benefit from downsizing a bit. How do you talk to older family members about um, how to get rid of things, especially if they're apprehensive about that and they have things that they no longer need or use?
There's a great book, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, and that's available by audiobook as well. And part of why I like it is the woman was in her 80s, late 70s, 80s when she wrote it. So that it's not a young person preaching to an older person, it's a peer. So that could be a very popular book, highly available. That could be a way to broach the subject. The other thing, I mean, could be if that family member is a part of it, just talking about that experience that you had, that you went through, or maybe that they were a part of as well. Like, remember when, so and so passed or was sick and we had to clean out their apartment? That was so much work. I wonder if you've given any thought to your things and what might happen for you. Or sometimes, there are people out there who say, like, I've met them, they're like, I'm not doing anything and my kids will deal with it when I'm gone. Like, there are people, and I don't know that you're going to make a lot of headway if that's your person. But if your person is a planner, they might get into it. Also, sometimes selling stuff, like I have a stepdad and he's like loves to sell tools and stuff because he's excited for the money. So he'll have me go over. I mean, I posted like 15 things on Facebook Marketplace for him in the spring. Like, he loves it. So I think you just start gently and, have you ever thought about kind of lightening your stuff, even if you're going to stay here for a while?
Okay. And this is kind of an extension of that question. What do you do when you don't want to keep most of the items from another family member's home that you clean out? It's challenging when cleaning out another person's life and some things are family oriented or keepsakes, but not necessarily enough room in that other person's space.
Yeah. So I have another talk that I give primarily to seniors, but I do think taking a picture, writing down the stories, that can be very meaningful, right? So and sometimes it's like, well, I don't want it, but does the other cousin want it? Sometimes you've shopped it around and no one wants it. But really what's meaningful, I think, is the story and the like the item, right? So how can you preserve that or the memory without keeping it?
I like that idea. It's almost like creating a photograph for the photo album that you already have that
Right.
has the story in it. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I recommend that to seniors too. Like, how can why not give, like the holidays are approaching, can you give away those heirloom items now? Like, why wait? Can you give them away now? And if you pass them on with the story, it's a lot more meaningful. If someone passes and you don't know the story of why they've been keeping that, it's a lot less meaningful.
Okay. How do you get past the mindset of wanting to get everything done in one day or at one time?
There's a little saying that it took years to get like this, so it's gonna take a lot time to unget like this, right? So I think that's just energy, and you want a more sustainable energy, right? Instead of just like doing it all at once and then you're exhausted and you're burnt out. Just trying to sustain, like, how can we do this over time? Yeah, I think it's good. It's good energy. It's just like if you burn out, that's not helpful to anyone, right?
Right, right. Okay. What tips do you have for decluttering when in pursuit of looking for another home to move into in the near future?
Mm. I mean, some of it is, are you downsizing? I don't know if that's inherent in the question. So, downsizing, people almost always take too much. They almost always take too much. That being said, um, there are some guides online of like, how many place settings? How many people are going to live there? How many place settings do you need? Getting rid of some of the very unusual kitchen gadgets that only do one thing, right? A good knife can take the place of 10 kitchen gadgets. So, I think I lost the question. I think,
Oh.
um,
So, just what tips do you have for decluttering when you're looking to move?
yes, I think really, thinking about like, what would I do without this? Do I need this? And then keeping sentimental items because sometimes people do. Sentimental items are not replaceable, so I exercise more caution and encourage people to exercise more caution with sentimental items. If things are replaceable, I mean, I think go for it because usually we all have too much.
Okay. So this is related, but in terms of downsizing collections, in quotes,
Mm.
how much storage is too much in a house?
So, so I think we're like goldfish. I think we fill up whatever storage we have. So I think if you're in a small house, you're going to fill up your storage, and if you're in a big house, you're going to fill up your storage. Like I think it's just sort of a natural tendency that we fill it up. And so I think making the conscious decision of, I'm only going to fill this closet or this room or, it depends on your home, but with that collection item. The other thing that I've seen, like, I have a client and they have an amazing sports memorabilia collection, but now they're older and they're thinking about downsizing. And I think the items are valuable, but then to find the niche people is very, very difficult. And so just thinking about that, if you're the only person, I've helped with a clean out. There was a large stamp collection. I'm calling around antique dealers. They're like, we don't have anyone that deals in stamps right now. If you're into it, clearing it out in a way that, like, getting it to those niche people, making sure things are sold for what they're worth, I mean, that is sort of a gift to your family or to whoever is coming after you to begin thinking about those things. There's it's in home care, but there's a 40-70 rule. So they're like, if you're over 40 and or your parents are over 70, that's when you think about beginning some of these conversations. So if you are on this call and you're asking about your collection, you're over 70, I mean, we hope we're all going to live to 100 and maybe you will, but it's sort of like, how am I going to clear or begin to reduce this collection responsibly?
Okay. Last question. Any tips for decluttering very large or heavy items, big furniture, appliances, and things that are cumbersome to move, or maybe even hard to recycle or upcycle or dispose of? And if you need help, where do you turn?
Yes. So you have to really establish, is it garbage, right? And if it's truly garbage, there are junk haulers. There's a ton of them. Junk Force is one that we've used. And you call them and they send, some strong guys and a truck and they will load up the truck and they'll take it away. And a lot of them say that the landfill is their last stop. So if there are usable things, they do some donating in that. If it's not garbage, though, and Catherine, you probably have some ideas, there are definitely charities that will take furniture. So you have to talk to them. So a lot of times they want it on a ground floor or like in like a garage so that they can take it easily. You can also get a mover and just pay them to move it to that area or to take it to the charity. A lot of charities charge you anyway for furniture. It might be like $50 or something. Um, so there are options. I'm thinking of what else? Appliances. I mean, again, the junk haulers, I think sometimes if it's really at the end of its life, they would take it and kind of dispose of it how they do.
I think also usable items, especially like refugee organizations who are doing resettlement for folks,
Mhm.
they're often looking for usable things that are, whether it be appliances or furniture or dishes. Whether or not they have pickup services, I'm not sure, but I think you do have to just get a little bit creative. And actually, that is a really good segue to my wrap-up slides. So if you can
Perfect.
stop sharing your slides, then I will go ahead and share mine. And thank you so much, Devon. This was a really great presentation. I think it's going to get a ton of views afterward. And a number of folks have already indicated that they are interested in the slides and all of that good stuff. So, all right. So my segue here is to my wrap-up slides that I normally offer. The first one is the what do I do with slide. So Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District is an incredible partner and such a great resource. So their webpage has a box where you can literally type in whatever object you have and click search, and it will take you to a page that gives you some options, ideas, suggestions, things to think about. So it's a really good tool. Then also you can see on my slide here, it says select a city. So when you click on that, you can select what city you live in, and then there's a whole host of resources for your particular city as well. So definitely get yourselves familiar with this website as you're starting your decluttering, and even if you're not, because it's just really that useful. Okay, next up, a very relevant one for the season is that holiday light recycling. So this is a great option if you have holiday lights that are not working, which you've probably already discovered, but you can recycle them at two different locations. The Cleveland Metro Park Zoo is one option, and then also the Solid Waste District takes them year round, actually. The zoo is only from now through February 15th. And I wanted to let everyone know about a film screening that is coming up with a panel discussion. And it is called Ripples of Plastic. It's a documentary and it takes place right here in Northeast Ohio on Lake Erie. And you've probably gotten familiar because I've mentioned it a number of times with Trash Fish. That is the organization that we did a cleanup with this past late summer on the Cuyahoga River, cleaning up from kayaks. And the operator of Trash Fish is profiled in that video. But it's a really great film and a great realistic look of what the problem looks like in our Great Lakes. And we have new pages on the internet. So if you are an employee here, which I presume most of you watching this right now are, we have on the initiatives page, we have a sustainability section that just keeps growing. And there's some really good new pages. So you'll see there's a recycling page. There's composting at the administration building, but also I wanted to point out the Lunch and Learn recordings. So this recording today will be on that page. It takes you directly to a YouTube page that has all of them listed. So that's a new addition. And our next Lunch and Learn is going to be a surprise. So it will be January 24th. That just means that we haven't determined the topic yet, but please mark the date. We will continue to do these through 2026. And with that, thank you so much for attending. The wellness code is here on the screen, so you can use that if you're participating in the program. And Devon, thank you again so very much for these incredible tips. I think everyone will, take bits and pieces and maybe some all of it and apply it to their homes. Um, and with that, there will be a survey that pops up on your screen once you close out of the webinar. And it's really kind of a wrap up for the year kind of survey. But there's also some questions to give your perspective on how you think today's Lunch and Learn was. So thanks again, everyone, and we will see you in 2026.